I live in a forgotten corner of Osaka, a place where hope packed its bags and left years ago. My home is a tiny apartment I share with my grandmother. My parents? They're ghosts in my memory. Dad went chasing work that never materialized. Mom? She worked herself to death in a factory, so it's just me and Grandma. To keep food on our table, she pulls brutal night shifts. Her knees are shot, but you'd never hear her complain. I was the smart kid at school, the one with a plan. I studied day and night with one singular goal: become a police officer. I wanted to fix this broken system, to give my family the dignity they were always denied. But life, it has a twisted sense of humor. One morning, the call came. Grandmother had collapsed at work. At the hospital, the doctor delivered the verdict: emergency surgery. The cost? 2 million yen, up front. To some businessman in a high-rise, that's just pocket change. To me, it was a mountain I could never climb. I ran through our building, knocking on every door, begging for a loan. But in this place, everyone is just trying to keep their own head above water. Who's going to trust a 17-year-old with that kind of money? So, I did the only thing I could. I quit school. I found work at the fish market, hauling boxes that felt like they were trying to snap my spine. At the end of a long, agonizing day, they handed me 8,000 yen. I sprinted home, eager to show Grandma, to tell her I was helping. But I found her on the floor, unconscious. Time was running out. I begged my boss for an advance, anything. He just laughed in my face. In his world, compassion is a liability. Desperate, walking in a daze, my eyes caught something on a telephone pole. A flimsy flyer, fast cash, no questions, no credit check. It was my last resort. The address led me to a basement office, the air thick with stale cigarette smoke. A man with yellow teeth smiled, a predator sizing up its prey. He offered the 2 million, no problem. The interest? 40% per week. We both understood the unspoken terms. I had no property for collateral. That was fine. They would take biological assets instead. If I defaulted, they'd harvest my organs. A kidney, a cornea, whatever the market demanded, I signed my future away to save hers. That night, I paid the hospital. The surgery lasted 6 long hours. But her heart, it gave out during recovery. She was gone before the sun came up. Grief is a luxury I couldn't afford. Before I could even process the emptiness, the first payment was due. I didn't have it. Of course, I didn't. The loan sharks' collectors didn't offer sympathy. They offered a beating that left me with broken ribs and a brutal ultimatum: 1 week to pay the full amount, or they were taking me to their clinic. Just as I was starting to accept my fate, a stranger approached me. He didn't ask for a resume or references. He was looking for someone young, someone desperate. The offer was simple: 1 week's work, and my entire debt would be cleared. I've lived in these streets my whole life. I knew exactly what this was. Running packages for the Yakuza. If you're useful, you get paid. If you're not, you just disappear. I told myself the oldest lie in the book. Just this once, then I'm out. The job itself seemed almost mundane. I was just a courier. My handler took me to a pachinko parlor, explaining that the route needed someone young, someone invisible. For the first time in my life, being a nobody was an advantage. He handed me a small, tightly wrapped package. The instructions were precise. Take the train to Namba Station. Leave the package in locker 47. Send a text to a specific number and then vanish. No eye contact, no talking to anyone. I was a ghost moving through the city's veins. And it was easy. Terrifyingly easy. For 7 days, I was the perfect courier. My youth and my plain face were the perfect camouflage. I moved through Osaka's crowds, unseen and unheard. I collected my pay. I cleared the debt. The loan sharks vanished from my life. A wave of relief washed over me, a feeling of pride that I had survived. I went back to my handler, ready to quit. I thanked him for the opportunity, telling him I was going back to my normal life now. I genuinely believed it was just a temporary job, something you could leave behind. But his smile turned cold. He calmly pulled out his phone and showed me a photo. It was me, from that morning, walking near the station. He explained their policy. In this business, there are no resignations. You have a talent we need, he said, and we don't like to waste talent. Besides, I knew too much now. The routes, the faces, the whole system. The choice was never really mine to make. The lie I told myself had caught up to me. I was in, and there was no getting out. You thought you were just temporary labor, a disposable asset to pay off a debt. But that was a naive fantasy. The new arrangement, they informed you, was non-negotiable. You were now a permanent investment. You could continue working for them indefinitely, or you could have a fatal accident tonight. That's when reality crushes you. The weight of it is absolute. You realize your so-called success was just a beautifully constructed trap. You had proven you were simply too useful to ever be released. You might have paid off one debt, but in doing so, you'd signed another, far more binding contract. This one had no expiration date. There was no exit clause, no escape from this world. The next 3 months passed in a hazy, disorienting blur. Your original handler, the man who brought you into this life, was arrested in a sudden raid. You survived by pure dumb chance. You should have been with him. But that close call brought you to the attention of the organization's higher-ups. They noticed something different about you, something the other street-level recruits lacked. It was your intelligence, your almost obsessive attention to detail. They decided you were too valuable, far too valuable for simple courier work. So you received a promotion. It came quickly, without ceremony. They handed you a new smartphone, a designated territory to watch, and a new corporate title. You were now a lookout, a watcher. Your job was reconnaissance and providing early warnings. For most recruits, this was a mind-numbingly boring assignment. But you were different. You applied the same intense focus that had earned you top grades in school. You weren't just watching, you were studying. You memorized police patrol schedules down to the minute. You learned to identify unmarked cars not by make or model, but by the subtle details others missed. The specific configuration of antennas on the roof, the distinct wear patterns on their tires. You developed a system of alert codes that were simple for your allies but completely indecipherable to anyone else. Your efficiency skyrocketed. The flow of information you provided was so good, so reliable, that operations in your sector saw a 200% increase in success. It wasn't long before the local Wakagashira, the lieutenant of the clan, summoned you personally. He was an imposing figure, a man who commanded respect through silence. He didn't say much. He just handed you an envelope thick with cash and spoke 3 words that changed everything. You did well. Those 3 words hit you harder than any physical blow. Since your grandmother died, no one had acknowledged you. No one had shown you an ounce of respect or appreciation. Suddenly, that feeling of worth, tied to a wad of illegal money, started to feel real. It started to buy things you hadn't had in years: proper meals, decent clothes, a semblance of stability. You began to justify the work. It's a dangerous game the mind plays. You convinced yourself you weren't just a criminal. You were a provider, a protector doing what was necessary to survive and even thrive. The constant fear that had been your shadow for months began to dissolve. It was replaced by something far more intoxicating, far more dangerous. Pride. A deep, chilling pride in your own criminal efficiency. You were good at this. You were starting to enjoy the game. Then, on a humid, sticky night, everything changed. A rival syndicate, aggressive and desperate, launched a full-scale attack, a violent challenge for territory. You were walking home, your mind on your recent successes, when the ambush began. The night air was torn apart by the sound of gunfire. Instinct took over. You tried to run, to find cover, but a stray round found you. It felt like a white-hot poker tearing through your shoulder. You collapsed onto the wet pavement, the world spinning. Time slowed to a crawl. The pain was blinding, all-consuming. You lay there, waiting for the kill shot, the final punctuation mark on your short, brutal career. But it never came. Instead, a hand grabbed your collar, and you were dragged away. A fellow clan member pulled you behind the relative safety of a concrete barrier just seconds before a nearby car erupted in a ball of fire. You survived. Barely. At a discreet clinic, they patched you up. And that's where the Wakagashira visited you. He sat beside your bed, the silence in the room heavy. Then he spoke, his voice quiet but firm. "Your family now," he said. "We take care of our own." For the first time since your grandmother passed away, you felt like you belonged somewhere. like someone actually valued your existence beyond what you could produce. It was a powerful, addictive feeling. You spent 2 weeks recovering, your body healing while your mind processed this new reality. When you returned to the streets, everything had changed. The organization had fought back, hard. The rival syndicate was crushed. Their leaders vanished as if they had never existed. And you were given new responsibilities. No more simple lookout work. You were being moved up again, this time to collections. Your job was now to collect debts from desperate people. People who were exactly like you had been just a few months ago. Your first assignment was a restaurant owner. A man in his 50s who had borrowed money to try and save his failing business. Now he couldn't make the payments. You arrived with 2 other, more seasoned members. The owner's eyes were tired. His hands trembled as he saw you approach. He begged for more time. His daughter was sick, he explained. Hospital bills were piling up. He just needed 2 more weeks. The senior member, a man with cold, empty eyes, just looked at you. "Handle it," he said. This was it. Your test of loyalty, a final exam. You looked at the desperate man, and in his face, you saw your own reflection from not so long ago. The same fear, the same hopelessness. But then you remembered the hospital bed. You remembered the Wakagashira's words. "Your family now?" You stepped forward. You grabbed the man by the collar of his worn shirt. The fabric was rough in your hand. You leaned in close and told him he had 3 days. 3 days to find the money, or they would take the restaurant and anything else he owned. The man didn't fight, he just nodded, his body slumping in defeat. He was broken, and in that moment, looking at him, you realized you were too. You had passed the test. You were truly one of them now. There was no going back. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more. You walk out of the apartment, but a part of you is still in there. Your hands won't stop shaking. Your senior slaps your back, a little too hard. "Good work today," he says, his voice booming with a cheerfulness that feels alien. You force a nod, a silent lie. That night, sleep is a stranger. Every time you close your eyes, you see him. The desperate man, his face a mask of terror. His hands trembling as they begged for mercy. His voice cracking under the weight of fear. In his eyes, you saw a perfect, horrifying reflection of yourself. But by morning, you've buried it, shoved it down into the dark, quiet corners of your mind. You learned to lock your emotions away, to build walls so high nothing can get over them. To survive, you must become numb. It's the only way. Over the next 2 years, life accelerates into a blur. You climb the ranks with startling speed, from collections to enforcement, from enforcement to operations management. You're efficient, ruthless, intelligent, everything the organization values, everything they need. By 22, you're a full member, a formal kyodai, a brother of the clan. The initiation ceremony is ancient, steeped in tradition. Sake cups are exchanged under solemn oaths, a bond sealed in rice wine and blood. The kumicho himself, the head of the family, presides over it all. He takes a ceremonial blade and makes a small, precise cut on your finger. You don't flinch. You don't even blink. The pain means nothing anymore. You've become exactly what they wanted. Cold, efficient, and completely, irrevocably committed. On the surface, your life transforms. You move into a new apartment, clean and modern, a world away from the grime of your past. Your closet fills with expensive, tailored suits. Your shoes are Italian leather, costing more than your family used to make in a month. You have money, more than the kid you used to be could ever have dreamed of. But with every new luxury, something fundamental inside you withers and dies. You notice it in the quiet moments. Late at night, when the work is done and the city outside your window falls into a low hum. You catch your reflection in the mirror and you don't recognize the person staring back. Where is the kid who wanted to be a cop? The boy who believed in justice, in right and wrong? He's gone, replaced by this stranger in a $1,000 suit. One evening, a new assignment comes down. A routine debt collection. The address is in Osaka. As you read it, a strange sense of familiarity creeps over you. Then, a jolt of cold shock. It's your old neighborhood, your old building, the exact place where you grew up. The debtor is a kid, maybe 16 or 17. His face is gaunt, hollowed out by stress, with dark circles under his tired eyes. He opens the door, and the moment he sees you, Pure, undiluted fear washes over his face. You ask about the debt, your voice calm and steady, a practiced professional. He stammers out his story, words tumbling over each other in desperation. His grandmother is sick, very sick. She needs expensive medical treatment. He borrowed the money to try and save her. Now he can't pay it back. The story is a perfect echo of your own, word for word, beat for beat. You're staring at your own past, at the desperate, terrified kid you once were. He trembles before you, and your partner, standing beside you, grows impatient. Hurry this up, he snaps. Teach the brat his lesson. But you're frozen. Looking into those terrified eyes, you see your own reflection staring back from years ago. The same desperation, the same hopelessness. Without thinking, your hand moves to the inside pocket of your jacket. You pull out a thick envelope. It's your own money, your personal savings, cash you've been putting away for months. You hand it to your partner. The debt's cleared, you say, your voice flat, devoid of emotion. Let's go. Your partner looks at you, confused, but he takes the envelope. He quickly counts the cash. It's more than the total debt. He just shrugs, pockets it, and turns to leave. The kid stares at you, his mouth hanging open, trying to form words that won't come. You don't explain. You don't want his thanks. You just turn and walk away, down the familiar, worn-out stairs. Out of the building you once called home. That night, something inside you breaks. Or maybe it finally begins to heal. You can't stop thinking about the kid's face. You can't stop thinking about how close you came to destroying another life, to perpetuating the same cycle that trapped you. You start questioning everything, every choice, every compromise, every step that led you to this moment. The next morning, you request a meeting with the Wakagashira, the man who first recruited you. Sitting across from him in his quiet office, you tell him you want out. You've served loyally. You've done your part. Now, you just want to retire. Disappear. Start over. The Wakagashira listens in absolute silence. When you finish, he starts to laugh. A cold, cruel, mocking sound that sends a chill straight through you. Retire, he repeats, the amusement in his voice like a knife. You think this is a job you can just quit? He stands and walks towards you, his presence filling the room. You're Yakuza, he says, his voice low and clear. That's not something you quit, it's something you are, forever. He leans in close, so close you can smell the sake on his breath. You know too much. You've seen too many faces. You've done too many things. The reality of his words crashes down on you like a ton of bricks. There is no exit. There's only one way out of this life, and it isn't retirement. It's death. Yours or someone else's. You leave his office in a daze, walking through the neon-lit streets of Osaka. The vibrant, beautiful city that once felt like a world of opportunity now feels like a cage, its glittering bars trapping you inside. That night, back in your silent, modern apartment, you sit alone in the darkness. You think about running, but you know they'll find you. They always do. You think about going to the police, but you're in too deep. You'd trade one prison for another, spending the rest of your life rotting in a cell for crimes you can ought even begin to count. You think about ending it all, but even that feels like a coward's escape. You look at your reflection in the dark window. The expensive suit, the clan pin on the lapel, the cold empty eyes staring back. You don't recognize this person, but you know with a sudden, chilling certainty that this is who you are now. This is what you've become. A Yakuza, trapped for life in a world without exits. A world built on the bones of your own dead dreams. You pour yourself a glass of sake, the liquid cool and smooth. You drink alone in the darkness. And in that silence, you finally accept your fate. This is your life now, until the day death finally comes to set you free. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content like this. Stay safe out there.